Firebending, one of the weirdest elements in Avatar, the only benders that seemingly generate their element directly from the body. Firebending is clearly the odd one out. The rest of the elements need a physical substance to bend. Fire is just a chemical reaction, it's combustion, and somehow it gets worse. They also shoot lightning. What does fire even have to do with lightning? So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what firebending really is. And once you understand firebending, it unlocks new subbending abilities that the show never dared to explore. Alright, so let's start with what we know. Firebenders can generate both fire and lightning, which seemingly have little to do with each other than both being, well, hot. So either they've got two unrelated abilities or there's something that we're missing. Let's start with basic firebending. So to make fire, you need fuel and oxygen, which means firebending runs into a problem immediately. Combustion needs fuel. Benders in the Avatar world use chi, or spirit energy, to bend. So maybe the chi is the fuel? A firebender is just burning their own energy to make flames. But that doesn't quite work either, and there's a scene that proves it. Iroh holds a cup of tea and warms it in his hands. There's no flame here, there's nothing really burning at all. It's just heat appearing in his cup of tea. If firebending was just simple combustion, chi fueled or not, there'd be fire here, and there isn't. So whatever Iroh's doing, it isn't making fire, it's making heat. If a firebender can produce heat with no flame, then flame was never the point, which is when it hit me. Firebenders don't bend fire, they bend heat, which really means they're energy benders. Now you're probably thinking, energy bending is already a thing. Aang does it when he fights Fire Lord Ozai, but look at where Aang got energy bending. The lion turtle looks extremely similar and has the same markings to the fire lion turtle shown in the Legend of Korra. Even if they aren't the same one, they're clearly related in some way. Energy bending tends to refer to spirit energy, while firebending bends raw energy in a scientific sense. They aren't really moving a physical element around, they're manipulating an invisible flow of thermodynamics. Think about it, a flame is just a fast dump of thermal energy causing combustion of the air. Now, if you're still not with me, listen to Uncle Iroh.
The breath becomes energy in the body. The energy extends past your limbs and becomes fire. Get it right this time.
Now that we have a better understanding of fire, lightning starts to make a stronger connection. When Uncle Iroh broke down lightning to Zuko, he wasn't just speaking in spiritual metaphors, he was giving him a perfectly accurate lecture on real-world physics. Here, let's look at them side by side. Iroh tells us,
Energy is both yin and yang. Positive energy and negative energy.
in the real world, this is a state of equilibrium. Air molecules all around you right now are electrically neutral, containing an equal balance of positive protons and negative electrons. Then Iroh explains,
Only a select few firebenders can separate these energies. This creates an imbalance.
in actual atmospheric physics, this is static charge accumulation. Inside a thunderstorm, updrafts force ice crystals to crash into each other. This strips away electrons, sending negative charges to the bottom of the cloud, and the top becomes intensely positive. You get a giant imbalance. Finally, Iroh says that
The energy wants to restore balance. And in the moment the positive and negative energy come crashing back together, you provide release and guidance.
and that right there is the exact definition of an electrostatic discharge. When the electrical potential becomes too charged to contain, it rips through the air. The charges rush towards each other to restore equilibrium, creating a blinding flash of plasma. The only real difference? Well, nature relies on storms. A firebender creates that intense division internally. They do this by using their own chi pathways. As Iroh puts it, you don't control the lightning, you're simply its humble guide. Which brings us to a giant piece of evidence for our energy bending theory. When Zuko tries to generate his own lightning, it blows up in his face. Why? Because Iroh warns, lightning requires a completely calm and unconflicted mind. Now, Zuko was walking emotional trauma, so when he tried, he couldn't actually separate the charges to generate electricity. Instead, all that built up chi energy instantly bottlenecked, Zuko being unable to separate the positive and the negative. So instead of an electrical release, it just converted into raw, compressed thermal energy. So he accidentally triggered an uncontrolled combustion blast. And if that explosion looks familiar, it's because it's just like combustion bending. Now, think about combustion benders from the show. They don't just bend fire. They use deep rhythmic breathing to compress the chi into a singular point, the third eye tattoo on their forehead. It's extreme thermal containment. They superheat a dense pressurized stream of air, almost like a projectile. The moment it hits a solid object or loses containment, that compressed thermal energy expands outwards, causing an explosion. Now look at what happens when Sokka hits Combustion Man in his third eye. The impact of the boomerang not only disrupts his chi, but also destroys his focus. So when he tries to build up that containment again, the energy loses stability and blows up point blank, similar to what happened to Zuko. But even if Zuko can't generate his own lightning, that doesn't stop him from redirecting it. The best proof for firebending really being energy bending is heat and lightning direction. We see Iroh redirect a natural lightning bolt, which is just pure electrical energy. And this is the exact same mechanism that Fire Lord Sozin uses at the volcano. He doesn't use fire, he siphons away the thermal energy directly out of the rock, cooling it into a solid. With his other hand, he redirects the heat, much like lightning redirection. So back to our question, what is firebending? Firebenders can manipulate both thermal and electrical energy by either generating it or through redirection, regardless if the source is natural or from another bender. If you're enjoying this video on nomad neutralizers, you should check out this video on earthbending, and consider subscribing. So, given all that, what else could firebenders theoretically do? Let's get into some crazy subbending abilities. We'll start with one of the most direct applications of heat redirection, using thermal siphoning like Sozin did with the volcano. We know a master firebender like Fire Lord Sozin can manipulate thermal energy without creating fire. But what would happen if a bender applied that exact same mechanism to a person? Instead of pumping heat into a target to burn them, they could pull the thermal energy out of a person's body by siphoning away the metabolic heat and redirecting it. They could drop your core temperature to a lethal freezing point. But trust me, it gets even worse. Iroh proved that firebenders don't just generate lightning, they can redirect it. But atmospheric lightning is giant and destructive. What happens when we scale that down to a cellular level? The human body is driven entirely by bioelectric signals. Every time your heart beats, every time your muscle contracts, every single thought traveling through your brain is all powered by tiny electrical impulses. This is how your nervous system works. That's also why being electrocuted is so harmful. If a firebender's chi can allow them to sense, absorb, and redirect a lightning bolt, then a master firebender should realistically be able to sense and guide the electrical signals inside of a human body. By either redirecting or interrupting someone's internal electrical currents, they wouldn't even need to attack them, they'd just need to touch them. They could short-circuit your motor neurons, scramble neural pathways in your brain, or even redirect the electrical signals that cause your heart to beat. Now this turns lightning bending from one of the most flashy attacks in the show to something more like an instant death touch. Now even if you're not with me on those ones, I had another interesting idea, the concept of a thermal battery. We know from real-world physics that certain materials like basalt have incredibly high heat capacity, meaning they can hold on to a massive amount of thermal energy. A firebender would carry it around as a portable and glowing battery pack, preheated before a mission. In sub-zero temperatures or during an extended battle where their chi is depleted, they could siphon the stored heat back out of the rock to continue firebending, kinda like a mini version of the sun or Sozin's comet, allowing them to get a small power-up. Then there's the concept of thermal tracking, which is kinda like a firebender's equivalent to Toph's seismic sense. Basically every living thing gives off heat signatures, but if a firebender can both sense and interact with thermal energy, they shouldn't just be able to produce it, they should also be able to perceive it. By mapping the invisible infrared radiation bouncing around an environment, a blind or blindfolded firebender could navigate by tracking enemies' heat, kinda like a sixth sense. And finally, I saved this one for last. We have electromagnetic field manipulation. In electrodynamics, moving electrical charges inherently generate magnetic fields. Since lightning-generating firebenders have the advanced capability to both separate, channel, and direct streams of electricity, all inside their body, they're essentially walking electromagnets. By precisely controlling the flow of these internal electrical currents, a master lightning bender could theoretically project their own magnetic field. Now, they wouldn't be metal bending in the traditional sense, but they could generate a magnetic field of repulsion. This would be great against either metal benders or any incoming weapons like swords or daggers. This would be especially useful in more modernized eras like The Legend of Korra, or you could use it to scramble navigation instruments of things like airships. But let me know what you think in the comments.